The face is the mirror of the inner self. Do you know that a single glance can light up an entire room or cast a shadow over it? Think about the last time you entered a space where someone was smiling warmly. Didn't you feel instantly at ease, as if the atmosphere had softened? Now, contrast that with a moment when you walked into a room where someone sat with a heavy, stern expression. Suddenly, the air felt tense, like you had to tread carefully. Our face, without speaking a word, tells the world what our heart is carrying. It is like a mirror, silent but honest. A mirror that reflects joy, peace, pain, or sorrow more clearly than any sentence we could ever say. Let me share a story. I once knew a man who was always burdened with worry. His face seemed permanently clouded, like the sky before a storm. People respected him, but they hesitated to get close. Even when he didn't say a thing, his presence carried a certain weight that pressed down on everyone around him. You could feel the stress radiating from his furrowed brow, his downturned lips, his restless eyes. And then, there was another woman I met at a retreat. She wasn't wealthy, she wasn't glamorous, but whenever she entered a room, her smile made everyone feel safe. Her face seemed to shine with a quiet peace, the kind that comes from within. She didn't need to say much. Her calm presence was enough to soften people's hearts. Have you noticed how a baby can make us smile simply by looking at us? Or how an elder with gentle eyes can comfort us without saying a word? It's the same principle. Our inner world shapes the expression on our face. This is what many spiritual traditions point to when they say, the heart shapes the face. In Buddhism, we often hear, when the mind is at peace, the face naturally brightens. So maybe the real beauty we carry has little to do with cosmetics, or how perfectly our features align. True radiance comes from the state of our inner world. If our mind is restless, fearful, or angry, it will show on our face, no matter how much we try to cover it up. On the other hand, when we cultivate a peaceful heart, when we water seeds of kindness and calm within us, the face transforms on its own. I wonder, if you paused right now and thought about your own expression today, what would it say about your inner state? Did your face reflect stress from work? Did it show the weight of old worries? Or did it carry the softness of someone who knows how to rest in the present moment? Science has even begun to confirm what ancient wisdom already knew. Studies in psychology show that people can detect emotions like anxiety, anger, or joy within milliseconds, just by observing micro-expressions, the tiny, almost invisible shifts in the muscles of the face. In other words, even when we think we are hiding our feelings, our face often reveals the truth. That's why cultivating peace of mind is not only for ourselves, but also for those around us. When we calm our heart, we don't just feel lighter inside, we also become a source of comfort for others. Imagine walking into your home at the end of a long day. If your face is tense, your family will feel that tension, even without a word. But if you come home with a gentle smile, it can change the entire atmosphere. Maybe that's why we are drawn to people with serene faces. They remind us of something we long for inside: stillness, balance, peace. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. A face that reflects an open heart is magnetic, because it speaks to the part of us that wants to be free. So the question becomes, how do we nurture that kind of presence? How do we let our face shine, not because of makeup or forced smiles, but because our heart is truly at ease? That's the journey we are beginning together. And in the next part, we'll take the first step, exploring the power of a simple, genuine smile, and how it can transform not only your face, but the energy of your entire life. Because the truth is, when the heart smiles, the face cannot help but follow. Stay with me. The best is yet to come. The smile, an invisible energy. The smile doesn't just change your face, it can change your whole life. Have you ever noticed how powerful a single smile can be? It's such a small movement, barely a shift of a few muscles. And yet, it carries a force strong enough to melt tension, soften anger, and even bring light into the darkest moments. Let me tell you a story. One afternoon, a crowded bus was stuck in traffic. The air inside was heavy, filled with sighs, frowns, and impatient glances. Everyone was tired, restless, and wishing to be anywhere but there. In the middle of that tense silence, a young passenger caught the eye of the driver and simply smiled. Not a forced, polite smile, but a genuine, gentle one. The driver, surprised, smiled back. Someone else noticed, and they smiled too. And slowly, like a ripple spreading across water, the mood in the bus shifted. People relaxed. The atmosphere lightened. What had been a stressful ride became almost bearable, all because of one smile. Isn't that remarkable? Something invisible, something we can't measure in dollars or inches, yet it has the power to transform the space around us. Buddhist wisdom often says, a smile is the seed of compassion. That means when you smile, not the fake grin we sometimes wear to hide discomfort, but a real smile born from kindness, you are planting a seed in the world. A seed that grows into trust, warmth, and connection. Think about the last time someone smiled at you unexpectedly. Maybe it was a cashier, a stranger passing by, or even a child. Did it not lift your heart, even for a second? Did it not remind you that there's still goodness in the world? That's the invisible energy of a smile at work. And here's the interesting part. When you smile at someone, their brain often responds unconsciously by mirroring it. Neuroscientists call this emotional contagion. In other words, your smile doesn't just stay on your face, it travels. It's contagious in the best way possible. But there's more. A smile doesn't only affect others, it also changes you. Studies have shown that even when you smile deliberately, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, the very chemicals linked to happiness and calm. Isn't that fascinating? Just by lifting the corners of your lips, you can actually shift your emotional state. It's as if the body reminds the mind, hey, peace is possible. Now, let's be honest. Life isn't always easy. Sometimes we carry too many worries, and smiling feels almost impossible. You may even think, what's the point of smiling when my heart is heavy? And that's a fair question, because not every smile is real. We've all seen smiles that are stiff, forced, or empty, masks that try to hide inner turmoil. Those don't bring healing, because they're not rooted in truth. The kind of smile we are talking about here is different. It's the smile that arises when you allow yourself a moment of presence, when you give yourself permission to breathe, to pause, to soften. Thich Nhat Hanh, the beloved Zen teacher, once said, sometimes your joy is the source of your smile, but sometimes your smile can be the source of your joy. This is the invisible energy I'm speaking of, the smile that is both a gift to others and medicine for yourself. I want to ask you something. When was the last time you smiled just for yourself? Not because you were trying to please anyone, not because of a photo, but simply because you recognized a small moment of life's beauty, a ray of sunlight, a bird song, or the taste of your morning coffee. That kind of smile has power. It's like a gentle note reminding your heart that even amidst challenges, life still holds wonders worth noticing. I remember once, during a retreat, the teacher asked us to practice smiling to ourselves in silence. At first, it felt awkward. I thought, what's the point? I'm just sitting here, smiling at nothing. But after a while, something shifted. My face softened, my breathing slowed, and I realized I had been carrying so much tension without even knowing it. That small smile was like opening a window in a stuffy room. Suddenly, the air inside me was lighter. That's the invisible energy of a smile. It doesn't force, it doesn't demand, it simply opens a door to peace. And imagine what the world could be if more of us remembered to carry such a smile. Not the plastic smile of advertisements, but the gentle smile that says, I'm here, I'm alive, and I choose not to let bitterness take over my heart. But here's the deeper question. What if our hearts are so full of sorrow or stress that smiling feels fake? What if the pain inside is too much to carry, and the face cannot reflect joy? That's where the real practice begins. Because a smile is not something we manufacture, it is something we allow. And to allow it, we first need to make space in our hearts. We need to know how to release some of the burdens we are holding. So, my friend, the smile may be an invisible energy, but it begins with inner healing. And that is exactly what we'll explore next. Because the truth is, if the heart is still drowning in sorrow, how can the smile on our face be real? Stay with me. In the next part, we'll journey deeper into how to ease the weight in our hearts, so that when we smile, it isn't a mask, it's a genuine light that shines from within. The eyes that know how to listen. They say the eyes can speak what the heart hasn't yet found the courage to say. Have you ever experienced that moment when someone simply looks at you, and you feel completely understood, without a single word spoken? It's as if their gaze reaches past your defenses and touches something tender inside. Our eyes carry more truth than our lips ever could. I remember a story about a doctor who was known not just for his medical skills, but for his presence. When patients came to see him, often scared or in pain, he didn't rush them. He didn't keep his eyes glued to charts or screens. Instead, he looked at them, really looked. His gaze wasn't clinical or cold. It was warm, steady, filled with attention. And somehow, even before he prescribed medicine, his patients already felt better. They trusted him, because in his eyes, they could see care. That's the quiet magic of eyes that know how to listen. Think about it. How many times in our lives do we long for someone just to listen? Not to fix, not to judge, not to compare, but simply to be there with us. And yet, so often when we share, the person in front of us is distracted. Their eyes dart to their phone, to the clock, to somewhere else. Their body is present, but their gaze tells us the truth. Their heart is not here. And we feel it. But when someone listens with their whole being, their eyes soften. Their gaze doesn't pierce or interrogate. It embraces. And in that moment, we feel safe enough to open up. This is what Buddhist wisdom points to when it speaks of mindful eyes, eyes of compassion. A compassionate gaze is healing, because it says, I see you, and I accept you as you are. No mask, no armor, just presence. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt truly seen by someone? Not just looked at, but seen? Maybe it was a friend who noticed the sadness you tried to hide. Maybe it was a child who looked into your eyes with pure innocence. Or perhaps it was a stranger on the street whose gaze held no judgment. Didn't that moment feel like a small miracle? There's science behind this, too. Psychologists talk about the power of eye contact in creating trust. When someone holds a gentle, steady gaze, our nervous system relaxes. The body interprets it as safety. That's why babies search for their parents' eyes. It reassures them, I'm loved, I'm safe. As adults, we may not always admit it, but we still crave that same reassurance. Yet here's the challenge. Our eyes are not neutral. They carry our inner world. If our mind is filled with criticism, fear, or judgment, it shows in our gaze, even if we smile. People can feel it. Our eyes can become sharp, cold, or distant. But when our heart is calm and kind, our eyes naturally soften. They shine in a way no makeup can replicate. I once had a teacher who said, your eyes are like windows. If your house is messy, people can see the clutter through them. But if your house is peaceful, your eyes become lanterns that guide others home. I didn't understand it at first, but over time, I realized how true it is. When I was stressed, even if I forced a smile, people sensed something was off. But on the days when I truly rested, when I forgave myself a little, my eyes carried a different energy. People noticed, even without me saying a word. So maybe the real work isn't just in how we look at others, but in how we look within. Because the more we can see ourselves with kindness, the more our eyes can reflect that kindness outward. Imagine what would happen if more of us walked into the world with eyes that truly listen. How many conflicts would soften? How many lonely hearts would feel less alone? Sometimes, the most powerful act of love isn't advice, isn't money, isn't even touch. It's simply the gift of eyes that say, I'm here, and I'm listening. But here's the big question. How do we train our eyes to listen more and judge less? How do we shift from eyes that measure and compare to eyes that heal and embrace? That, my friend, is the path we'll walk together next. Because to cultivate eyes of compassion is to cultivate a heart of compassion. And once the heart changes, the eyes will follow. Stay with me. In the next part, we'll explore how even something as simple as a mindful breath can change not only your inner state, but the way your entire face radiates peace. The radiance of breath. Hook. Just one deep breath, and your whole face begins to change. Main content. Let me tell you a story. There was once a young meditation student, standing backstage before his very first public talk. His heart was pounding so loudly he felt the audience could almost hear it. His face was pale, his jaw tight, and his eyes restless with fear. At that moment, he remembered something his teacher had told him. When you don't know what to do, return to the breath. So, he closed his eyes for just a moment. He took a long, slow inhale. He held it gently, then released. On the second breath, the trembling in his hands began to ease. On the third, his face softened, the tension around his eyes melted. By the time he walked onto the stage, something subtle but powerful had changed. His face no longer looked anxious, it carried calmness, a kind of grounded presence. The audience could sense it. They weren't only listening to his words, they were drawn to the peaceful energy shining through his expression. This is the quiet power of mindful breathing. Our breath and our face are deeply connected. When the breath is shallow and rushed, the face looks tight and unsettled. But when the breath is calm and steady, the face glows with ease. Think about the times you've been stressed. People can tell instantly, even before you say a word. But they can also tell when you're at peace. Your breathing literally paints the story of your inner world onto your face. In Buddhist teaching, there's a simple but profound phrase: peaceful breath, peaceful countenance. When the breath finds its rhythm, the mind settles, and that calm naturally shines outward. It's like polishing a mirror. Nothing is added, but the clarity reveals itself. And modern science echoes this wisdom. Research shows that slow, mindful breathing lowers stress hormones, relaxes facial muscles, and even reduces unconscious micro-expressions of fear or anger. In other words, your breath doesn't just change how you feel inside, it transforms how others see you. Have you ever noticed how different a person looks when they're nervous compared to when they're calm? The same features, the same face, but completely different energy. Sometimes, it's not makeup, lighting, or skincare that makes someone radiant. It's simply the calm confidence that arises from steady breathing. I've seen this in my own life too. Before an important meeting or a hard conversation, I used to rush in carrying all my anxiety on my face. But the more I practiced pausing, breathing, and settling my nervous system, the more people began to respond differently. They didn't always comment on my words, but they'd say things like, "You seem so calm today," or "I feel comfortable talking with you." That was the breath speaking through me, without a single word. So when we talk about facial beauty or positive aura, maybe it's not only about skincare routines or external treatments. The most timeless and cost-free secret has always been within you, your breath. It's the invisible artist shaping your visible presence. Imagine meeting someone whose face radiates peace. Their eyes aren't darting around but resting gently. Their jaw isn't clenched but soft. Their smile carries ease instead of effort. Without even realizing it, you feel calmer around them. That's not a coincidence. That's the breath working silently behind the scenes. Closing. So yes, with just one mindful breath, your face can change. Your aura can shift. Your entire presence can soften into something magnetic. But this raises an important question. Is breath alone enough to sustain that radiance, or is there something deeper we need to cultivate? That's the mystery we'll explore in the next part. When letting go, the face blooms. Hook. A face holding onto anger is full of frowns. A face that lets go blossoms with gentleness. Main content. Let me share with you a simple story. Two old friends once met again after years of silence. The last time they had spoken, harsh words were exchanged, and resentment grew between them. When they finally saw each other, one of them carried the old wound like a stone in his chest. His eyes were sharp, his jaw tight, his expression almost hostile even before a word was spoken. The other, however, had chosen to release the grudge long ago. He approached with a soft smile, his face open, his gaze warm. Nothing needed to be explained. The contrast was clear. One face mirrored the weight of anger, and the other reflected the freedom of forgiveness. And in that very moment, everyone around them could sense which face carried peace. This is the beauty of letting go. We think forgiveness is for the other person, but really, it is a gift we give ourselves. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to fall ill. Our bodies carry it, our breath carries it, and yes, even our faces carry it. Have you ever noticed how bitterness carves lines deeper than age ever could? How anger makes even the most youthful face look harsh? But when we practice letting go, the face softens. There's a gentleness that needs no makeup, a glow that no expensive cream can buy. The beauty is effortless because it's born from an unburdened heart. Buddhist wisdom calls this Buddhist-inspired, the art of releasing. To release is not weakness, it is strength. It takes courage to unclench the fist of the past. And when we do, the face responds. It blooms, like a flower no longer pressed under the weight of stones. Science agrees with this too. Studies on stress show that chronic anger and grudges increase muscle tension, blood pressure, and even the micro-expressions we unconsciously display. On the other hand, acts of forgiveness lower stress hormones and visibly soften facial muscles. Quite literally, forgiveness makes us look more at ease, more approachable, more alive. Think about people you've met who radiate kindness. Isn't their face the most beautiful thing about them? Not because of perfect features, but because of the peace they carry. That is the silent power of letting go. It transforms us from within, and the world can see it reflected in our expression. In my own life, I've noticed how carrying resentment shows up in small ways. My smile feels forced, my eyes look distracted. But the moments I truly release, whether it's forgiving a mistake, letting go of a missed opportunity, or simply exhaling a frustration, the change is immediate. My face feels lighter, freer, almost as if my inner weather has cleared. And people notice. They may not know the reason, but they sense the shift. So maybe the question is not how to look more beautiful, but how to live more freely. Because beauty is not in cosmetics, it is in the peace we allow to shine through us. Closing. So yes, a face holding anger frowns, but a face that lets go blossoms. The deeper question is, how do we actually practice letting go in our daily lives? That's the journey we will continue together. Gratitude lights up the face. Hook. Those who live with gratitude carry a unique kind of radiance on their face, something no cosmetic can imitate, no mask can fake. Main content. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to shine, even without perfect skin, youthful features, or expensive clothes? There's a softness, a warmth, almost a glow that makes them magnetic. If you look closer, you'll find that this light doesn't come from the outside, it comes from within. I once knew an elderly woman in a small village. She had lived a simple life, far away from luxury or abundance. Yet every time I saw her, her face carried a serenity and brightness that was unforgettable. What was her secret? It wasn't beauty products, nor wealth, nor even health. She was frail and her hands trembled with age. Her secret was gratitude. Every morning, she would whisper thank you to the sun for rising. She would smile at the bowl of rice on her table as if it were a feast. She would thank the rain for watering the plants, thank her neighbors for a small kindness, thank her aching body for carrying her another day. Gratitude was not something she practiced occasionally. It was the rhythm of her life. And it showed. Her face was lined, yes, but those lines were soft, not hardened. They told the story of someone who chose appreciation over complaint, presence over bitterness. Her expression radiated a quiet joy that made you feel safe, welcomed, even blessed just by being near her. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that gratitude, or trien, is the root of happiness. When we recognize the gifts already present in our lives, the heart softens. That softness becomes happiness, and happiness naturally reflects on the face. Have you ever compared the expression of someone constantly complaining with someone who finds reasons to be thankful? One face looks tense, always dissatisfied. The other, even if wrinkled with age, glows with ease. Gratitude is not only a spiritual truth, it is also a scientific one. Research in psychology shows that gratitude practices reduce stress, lower blood pressure, improve sleep, and increase resilience. But beyond the physical, gratitude literally changes how we carry ourselves. It relaxes the small, tight muscles around the eyes and mouth. It makes our gaze gentler, our smile more genuine. People can sense it, even if they don't know why. Gratitude gives us an aura of approachability and warmth that no artificial charm can match. Now pause for a moment and think, when was the last time you looked at your own face in the mirror and saw not just your features, but your state of mind? Did your reflection look burdened, worried, restless? Or did it carry a sense of ease? Gratitude has the power to shift that reflection instantly. Imagine if, instead of starting your day with a sigh, you started with a small thank you for your breath, for your bed, for the chance to see another sunrise. How different might your face look, even before you leave the house? There's a saying, gratitude turns what we have into enough. And when we feel that sense of enough, the body relaxes, the mind calms, and the face brightens. You don't need to chase radiance. It comes as a natural byproduct of contentment. Let me share another story. A young man once asked his teacher, "How can I make my face more attractive? I feel like no one notices me." The teacher simply replied, "Practice gratitude. People will be drawn to you, not because of your face, but because of your light." The student was skeptical, but he began to write down 3 things he was grateful for each night. Slowly, he noticed his interactions changing. Friends said he seemed more positive. Strangers smiled back at him more often. His own reflection in the mirror seemed different, not because his features had changed, but because his energy had. The lines of worry softened. His eyes carried more kindness. Gratitude had reshaped his face without touching it. So perhaps the true secret to a radiant face is not found in creams, surgeries, or filters. It is found in the simple act of saying thank you, again and again, for the life we already have. Gratitude transforms the ordinary into extraordinary. And it transforms us from the inside out. Think about it. When you meet someone who is deeply grateful, don't you feel at ease in their presence? They're not competing, not demanding, not radiating lack. Instead, they radiate fullness. And fullness shines. But here's a question worth pondering. How can we begin to live more gratefully, especially in a world that constantly tells us we don't have enough, that we need more, be more, own more? It doesn't have to start big. Gratitude begins with noticing. Noticing the glass of water on your table, the breath in your lungs, the message from a friend, the roof above your head. Gratitude begins with paying attention. And once you start, you'll see, your face will start to carry that light, the same light you see in those who live with open hearts. Closing. So yes, those who live with gratitude shine with a beauty that can't be faked. Their faces carry a brightness that doesn't age, because it comes not from the skin, but from the soul. The only question left is, where do we begin? How do we plant the seeds of gratitude in our own daily lives? That's what we'll explore next. The power of mindfulness in every expression. Hook. A face that is fully present in the moment looks completely different from a face lost in the past or anxious about the future. Main content. Have you ever shared a meal with someone and felt like they weren't really there? Maybe their eyes were on their phone, their mind somewhere else, their expression distant. Even though they were sitting right in front of you, you could sense their absence. Their face carried the tension of unfinished thoughts, of worries about tomorrow, or regrets about yesterday. Now imagine the opposite. Picture someone eating with mindfulness. Each bite is taken slowly, with gratitude and awareness. Their jaw is relaxed, their gaze soft, their expression calm. Just being near them feels different, like time has slowed down, like the present moment has suddenly opened its doors. The contrast is striking. Two people doing the exact same activity, eating a meal. One face tight, distracted, clouded. The other face peaceful, fresh, alive. What makes the difference? It's not the food. It's not the surroundings. The difference is mindfulness. Buddhist wisdom reminds us, when the mind is truly here, the body relaxes, and the face reflects that inner ease. When we are present, our face is not weighed down by past regrets or future fears. Instead, it glows with the freshness of being alive right now. That's why Thich Nhat Hanh often said, the present moment is filled with joy and happiness. If you are attentive, you will see it. And people can see it on your face. Think about it. How often do we carry the face of our distractions without even realizing it? The face of stress when thinking about deadlines. The face of longing when stuck in memories. The face of worry when lost in what ifs. These faces don't just reflect what's inside us, they also influence how others feel in our presence. A worried face can spread unease. A mindful face can spread calm. There's even scientific research supporting this. Studies on mindfulness show that people who practice regularly have lower levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. Their bodies and facial muscles hold less tension. This doesn't just change how they feel, it changes how they look. Participants are often described as appearing more relaxed, approachable, even younger. In other words, mindfulness doesn't just heal the inside, it beautifies the outside. Let me share a small story. A friend of mine used to suffer from public speaking anxiety. Before every meeting, his face would turn pale, his lips tight, his brow furrowed. He looked as nervous as he felt, and people picked up on it instantly. One day, he tried something different. Instead of rehearsing frantic lines in his head, he sat quietly before his presentation and simply followed his breath. Inhale, exhale. Just 3 minutes of being fully present. When he stood up to speak, his face was noticeably different. His expression was steady, his eyes clear. He wasn't just pretending to be calm. He was calm because he had anchored himself in the present moment. People didn't just hear his words, they trusted them because his face carried authenticity. That's the subtle power of mindfulness. It gives us a kind of beauty that no surface polish can match. The beauty of presence. But here's something we often forget. Our faces are not static. They are living mirrors of our inner state, moment by moment. If your mind is racing, your face will show it. If your heart is open, your face will reveal it. Every tiny muscle movement, every flicker of the eyes, every curve of the lips, they are all shaped by where your awareness is. So the question becomes, how do we want to show up in the world? Do we want to carry the restless face of distraction? or the peaceful face of presence. For me, I've noticed this even in everyday moments, like waiting in line at the grocery store. If I let impatience take over, my jaw tightens, my brows knit together, and my whole face feels closed. But if I take that same moment to simply breathe and look around, maybe notice the colors of the fruit, the small kindness of someone helping another customer, my expression softens. Nothing outside me has changed. The line is still long. But my inner world has shifted, and my face reflects that shift. Mindfulness makes us more beautiful not because it changes our features, but because it changes our energy. Presence gives us a freshness that people can feel. It makes others want to lean in, not turn away. But here's the challenge, and maybe you felt it too. What if the mind is always running? What if it never seems to stop? How do we keep mindfulness alive in a world full of distractions, worries, and noise? That's the question we'll explore next. Closing. So yes, a face rooted in mindfulness is a face that shines with life. It is calmer, fresher, more open. But if the mind keeps running away, to yesterday's pain or tomorrow's fears, how do we truly hold it here, in this moment? That's what we'll uncover in the next part. Compassion, the invisible fragrance on the face. Hook. You don't need cosmetics to look beautiful. You only need compassion. Main content. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to glow, even if their faces are full of wrinkles, even if they wear no makeup at all? There's something in their presence that makes you feel safe, welcomed, and at ease. Their beauty doesn't come from a perfect jawline or smooth skin. It comes from within. I once met an elderly monk whose face was covered in deep lines of age. By society's standards, he was far from youthful or perfect. Yet, the moment you stood before him, you felt as if you were bathed in sunlight. His smile was not flashy, his words were gentle, but there was an invisible fragrance about him, something you couldn't see with your eyes but could feel with your heart. That fragrance was compassion. Compassion is like a timeless cosmetic. While physical beauty fades with age, the beauty born of kindness only deepens. A compassionate heart softens your eyes, relaxes the tightness around your lips, and brings warmth to your entire face. People may forget the clothes you wore or the hairstyle you had, but they will never forget how safe and cared for they felt in your presence. Think about it. Haven't you ever met someone who looked perfectly polished but somehow felt cold, distant, or unapproachable? On the other hand, a person with very little outward decoration, but whose heart is filled with kindness, naturally draws others closer. Compassion doesn't need marketing. It doesn't need Instagram filters. It doesn't need to announce itself. It simply radiates. In Buddhist teachings, compassion is considered a limitless source of beauty. The Buddha often reminded his followers that cultivating a heart of kindness was the path to peace, not just for oneself but for everyone around. When we act with compassion, we are not just doing something noble for others, we are also transforming our own being. Our face, our energy, our presence becomes medicine for the world. But here's the key: compassion is not just a thought. It's not enough to say, "I wish people well." True compassion shows itself in action. It's the way you pause to listen to a friend who is hurting. It's the way you let a stranger cut in line because you sense their urgency. It's the way you choose patience with a child or forgiveness with someone who has wronged you. Each of these small acts leaves a trace, not only in the hearts of others but also on your own face. Over time, those acts shape you into someone who carries peace wherever you go. Let me ask you, when you picture the people who inspire you most, maybe a parent, a teacher, or a mentor, what do you remember? Is it their flawless appearance? Or is it the feeling of being loved, understood, and supported? That feeling is compassion's true signature. And science, interestingly, confirms this ancient wisdom. Studies show that when we practice compassion, whether through meditation or through daily acts of kindness, the brain releases oxytocin, the hormone that creates feelings of warmth and bonding. This not only affects our inner state but subtly changes our outward appearance. Our muscles relax, our expressions soften, and our face literally becomes more approachable. In short, compassion makes us more beautiful, inside and out. So the next time you look in the mirror and worry about wrinkles or imperfections, I invite you to pause. Instead of asking, "How do I hide this?" ask, "How can I let more compassion shine through me today?" Because no cream or cosmetic can compete with the glow of a kind heart. Closing thought. But compassion is not just a thought, it asks to be lived. And that brings us to a deeper question. How do we turn compassion from an idea into action? Releasing facial tension, Releasing mental tension. Hook. Are you clenching your jaw or furrowing your brows without even realizing it? Main content. It might sound surprising, but the face tells the story of the mind. Many of us carry invisible burdens that settle right here, in the tiny muscles around the jaw, the forehead, and even the corners of the lips. You may not notice it, but stress often leaves its first fingerprints on your face. A clenched jaw, a furrowed brow, a tight smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes. I remember one evening, after a long day of work, I looked at myself in the mirror. My face felt heavy. I wasn't angry, but my forehead was creased, and my teeth were pressing tightly together. It was as if my face had been carrying all the unspoken weight of the day. In that moment, I realized, if the face could hold on to so much tension, maybe learning to let it go could also help free the mind. Here's a simple practice I'd like to share with you. Take a breath. Notice your jaw. Gently part your teeth. Soften your lips. Let your tongue rest on the floor of your mouth. Now move to your forehead. Release the little frown lines. Let your eyebrows spread and soften. Feel the corners of your eyes relax. Just this small shift can create a ripple, not only across your face but deep within your chest. This is more than relaxation. In Buddhist teachings, body and mind are not separate. They are deeply interwoven. When the body is tense, the mind echoes that tension. When the body softens, the mind follows. This is why mindfulness practices often start with the body, the breath, the posture, the muscles. By caring for the body with awareness, we create an opening for the heart to rest. Think of a time when you were anxious. Maybe you were waiting for important news or preparing to speak in front of others. Do you remember how your body felt? Most likely, your shoulders were tight, your stomach unsettled, and yes, your face was tense. Now think of a moment when you felt deeply at peace, maybe sitting under a tree or laughing with a loved one. Your face in those moments, was it not open, calm, and almost glowing? The body mirrors the state of the mind. The beauty of this practice is that it doesn't take hours. You don't need to retreat to a monastery or roll out a yoga mat. You can practice softening your face while sitting at your desk, while waiting in line, or even while driving. Every time you notice your jaw tightening or your brow furrowing, let that be a gentle bell reminding you, it's time to release, it's time to breathe. And here's something fascinating. When you relax your face, the world responds differently. People see openness instead of stress. They see warmth instead of hardness. A relaxed face not only heals you but also creates a calmer space for others. It's as if your soft expression gives permission for others to soften too. So I invite you to make this a daily ritual, like brushing your teeth or washing your face. Each time you release facial tension, imagine you are also releasing the little knots in your heart. Over time, this practice becomes a way of life, a reminder that letting go is not just a spiritual idea but something you can feel, here and now, in the very muscles of your face. Closing thought. So the question becomes, how can we weave this simple practice of release into our daily lives, in a way that doesn't take much time but brings deep peace? A peaceful face, a gift to the world. Hook. Every morning, when your face steps out into the world, what kind of energy does it carry? Main content. Pause for a moment and think about this. Your face is often the very first gift you give to the world each day. Before you speak a single word, before you take a single action, your presence is already speaking. The expression you carry, whether calm or restless, warm or distant, sends ripples out into the people around you. I once heard a story about a teacher. He wasn't famous. He didn't give long, dramatic lectures. But every time he entered the classroom, his students would fall silent, not out of fear, but out of peace. Just his presence, the calmness written across his face, was enough to settle the whole room. One student later said, "When he walked in, I felt as if I had been carrying a heavy backpack all day, and suddenly, I could put it down." That is the quiet power of a peaceful face. And maybe you've experienced something like this too. Think about the last time you were near someone who radiated peace. It could have been a grandparent, a mentor, a kind stranger in line at the grocery store. You probably don't remember the exact words they said, but you do remember the way you felt around them, safe, calm, almost as if your heart could breathe a little more easily. This isn't magic. It's the natural reflection of inner energy. The Buddhist teachings remind us that the mind and body are inseparable, and the face is often the canvas of the soul. When your heart is agitated, your face carries that agitation. But when your heart is still, your face becomes like a quiet lake, Others can see their own reflection more clearly in it. We often underestimate this power. We think we need to do big things to change the world, give speeches, write books, donate huge sums of money. But sometimes, the world doesn't need another big action. Sometimes, it simply needs one peaceful face. Imagine walking into a chaotic workplace and being the one person who doesn't rush, who smiles gently, who listens with presence. Without a single lecture, you've already shifted the atmosphere. That is a gift. But here's a deeper truth. Your face is not just for others, it's also a gift to yourself. When you cultivate peace within, and it naturally softens your expression, you are reminding yourself of your own grounding. Your reflection in the mirror becomes a gentle teacher. Instead of seeing a tired, hardened face staring back, you meet a friend, someone who carries kindness and calm. Now, ask yourself honestly, what energy does your face usually bring into the world? Is it the face of someone still carrying yesterday's worries? The face of someone lost in the rush of the next task? Or is it the face of someone who has learned the art of arriving fully in the present moment? Let me share a simple practice. Each morning, before stepping out, pause in front of the mirror. Don't rush. Don't criticize. Just breathe, look into your own eyes, and ask, what do I want my face to give to the world today? Maybe it's warmth. Maybe it's steadiness. Maybe it's compassion. With that awareness, let your breath settle your heart. Let your heart soften your face. And then carry that gift with you. You might think, but isn't that superficial? Just controlling my expression. The answer is no, because it's not about faking. A forced smile can be spotted instantly. This practice is about inner alignment. When your breath is calm, your body softens. When your body softens, your mind opens. And when your mind opens, your face naturally radiates peace. It's authentic, and authenticity is what people feel most deeply. Here's the paradox. You don't create a peaceful face by trying to look peaceful. You create it by living peacefully, even in small moments. By pausing to breathe when you're rushed. By forgiving instead of holding grudges. By noticing the beauty of a flower, a child's laughter, a ray of morning sunlight. Every act of mindfulness and compassion carves new lines on your face, not of stress, but of grace. Think of an elderly monk or grandmother whose face is full of wrinkles yet somehow glows. Their beauty doesn't come from erasing time, but from embodying peace. Each wrinkle tells a story, not of bitterness, but of acceptance. That's why, when they step into a room, people instinctively feel safe. Their face itself is a blessing. And isn't that what the world needs more of? We already have enough angry faces on the news, enough anxious faces in the subway, enough indifferent faces scrolling through screens. What the world craves is presence. A face that says, it's okay. You can rest here. You are safe. You may not realize it, but your face has this power too. Every morning, when you step out, you're not just heading to work or to errands, you're bringing your energy to others. A peaceful face is not only a personal treasure, it's a public service. It reminds people that amidst the noise, peace is possible. Closing thought. And this leads us to a deeper question. How do we sustain this positive energy throughout the entire day, not just for a few brief moments in the morning? That's what we'll explore together in the next video.